I am happy to be here in Addis Ababa. We shall lay here the foundations for the Continental Union of African States.
The Organization of African Unity, the OAU, was created in 1963 by the first independent African states. Its purpose was to liberate the continent from colonialism and apartheid and to promote greater unity and development. In April 1994, after 30 years of armed struggle, one of OAU's objectives was realized when Nelson Mandela was elected the first black president of South Africa. This symbolized the beginning of a new era of freedom and hope for a brighter future. However, the celebrations of this achievement were soon to be overshadowed as Africa awoke to the human catastrophe embodied in the genocide in Rwanda that very same year. Political crisis and outright wars proliferated across the continent, from civil wars in Liberia and Sierra Leone to the continued fighting in Somalia. In addition to violent conflicts, the intensification of globalization and increased competition with the rest of the world further compounded the continent's economic and social development challenges. Clearly, while the OAU had accomplished its liberation mission, it was no longer well equipped to respond to these new challenges. On the eve of its 40th anniversary, on July 2002, in Durban, South Africa, African heads of state and government launched the African Union, the AU.
I think we have inaugurated the African Union with the necessary enthusiasm to make sure that this new baby grows and becomes a very strong person.
While the AU departed in many respects from the OAU, its core values of peace, unity, freedom, and development remain as set by the OAU founding fathers in 1963. The OAU Charter remains ever alive, anchored in the Constitutive Act of the African Union. The most immediate objective of the Union is the quest for an Africa at peace with herself and the rest of the world, where all Africans are free from fear and from want. This pursuit for a peaceful and integrated continent, striving to achieve economic and social development, typifies the AU's upbeat approach and Africa's resolve to find homegrown solutions to its problems. Conscious that without peace there can be no meaningful development, the first 10 years of the AU's existence have seen it invest most of its resources to making peace happen on the continent. In 2003, the protocol relating to the establishment of the Peace and Security Council entered into force, putting into place an African Peace and Security Architecture, the APSA. The APSA constitutes a legal and institutional framework from the prevention, management, and resolution of conflicts, and post-conflict reconstruction and development. As APSA's main pillar, the Peace and Security Council, the PSC has the primary responsibility for the maintenance of peace and security in Africa. The 15 members of the PSC, elected on a regional basis, act on behalf of the entire membership of the AU, and its decisions are binding on all African stakeholders. The second pillar of the APSA is a Continental Early Warning System, or CEWS. This links regional early warning systems to monitor potential threats to peace or escalation of conflicts across the continent. The CEWS reports to the PSC and the chairperson of the AU Commission. The AU Situation Room is a monitoring center where all this information converges. In the Situation Room, the latest technology for open source monitoring and data collection is applied. Hundreds of thousands of bytes of data are processed every minute, keeping analysts updated and ready to alert policymakers in case of an impending crisis. Perhaps the greatest achievement of the AU is the establishment of the African Standby Force, the ASF, to support the Peace and Security Council's effort to bring about and to keep peace in Africa. The ASF is composed of military standby brigades stationed in the regions ready for deployment at short notice. With its civilian component, the ASF becomes a multidimensional force, ready to intervene not only in conflict situation, but also to engage in reconstruction and peace building, as well as to support natural disaster management efforts. The first contingent of the ASF was deployed in Somalia in 2011. Conflict prevention and peaceful settlement of disputes within and between AU member states was among the core principles of the OAU and today continues to guide AU's actions in the area of peace and security. The Panel of the Wise, an advisory body composed of eminent African personalities with a record of engagement for peace and development in Africa, became fully operational in 2008. Since then, it has been advising the Peace and Security Council on all matters relating to peace and security, including the issue of women and children in armed conflicts. The panel has also been active in conflict mediation, particularly in electoral crisis prevention. Building on its relationships with the regional economic communities and regional mechanisms for peace and security, the RECs, as spelled out in the Memorandum of Understanding signed between the AU and the RECs in 2008. The APSA emerges as the Pan-African peace and security regime with the promise to bring about lasting peace throughout the continent.
The regional economic communities are an integral part of the African Union. We act primarily through the member states, but we also act through the regional economic communities in all walks of life.
In the same vein, the peace and security clusters of the Pan-African Parliament and of the civil society body, ECOSOC, as well as the African Commission of Human and People's Rights, all strive to live up to the expectations of African citizens by cementing unity amongst its people and creating a strong spirit of partnership with both African and non-African stakeholders. Peace, indeed, is a collective responsibility, and the whole of humanity has a stake in a peaceful and prosperous Africa. The joint AU-UN peacekeeping mission in the Sudan, UNAMID, and the AU mission in Somalia, AMISOM, supported by AU partners from the United Nations, the European Union, and individual non-African states, gives resonance to the commitment of all to bequeath a peaceful continent to the future generations of Africans. In a bid to give added momentum to peace efforts in Africa, AU heads of state and government declared 2010 as the year of peace and security in Africa and launched the Make Peace Happen campaign, committing themselves to deal once and for all with the scourge of conflicts and violence on our continent, acknowledging our shortcomings and errors, committing our resources and our best people, and missing no opportunity to push forward the agenda of conflict prevention, peacemaking, peacekeeping, and post-conflict reconstruction.
The African Union has engaged role models to inspire and mobilize Africans to make peace happen.
During the launch of the Make Peace Happen campaign, the African leaders declared, "We simply cannot bequeath the burden of conflicts to the next generation of Africans." In January 2012, from atop the new AU headquarters building in Addis Ababa, African leaders unveiled the stone, marking the site of the AU Memorial for Human Rights in remembrance of those who lost their lives to wars, genocides, all violations of human rights. From the Red Terror in Ethiopia, the genocide in Rwanda, the fight against apartheid in South Africa, civil wars in West Africa, in Sudan and Somalia, in sum, all human catastrophes the continent has undergone. In the same square, the statue of Kwame Nkrumah, the founder of the spirit of Pan-Africanism, points to the limitless horizon and what seems to be an invitation to continue the journey towards peace and development, where only the sky is the limit. As we mark the 10th anniversary of the African Union, the words of Ahmed Ben Bella, the first president of independent Algeria, founding father of the OAU, still resonates. In order to be free and at peace, we need to die a little and maybe completely for Africa. Ahmed Ben Bella was the president of the AU Panel of the Wise at the time of his demise in March 2012. He indeed died seeking peace for Africa. Every year on International Peace Day, 21st September, Africans put their talents to the service of peace in Africa. Warring parties observe ceasefire. Villages organize football games for peace. Children learn peace lessons in class. They all share the common goal of experiencing peace across the continent for at least one day. In a moment of unity and collective consciousness, it is our hope that if we can make peace happen on one day, then we can move closer towards realizing a lasting peace. What about you? What will you do to make peace happen?